We've got Peter Schiff. He's CEO and Chief Strategist at Euro-Pacific Capital. All right, Peter, good to see you today. So first, can I get you to comment on how this Hanoi summit is playing into our markets and the progress with these China trade talks?
Well, it's hard to say if it's making any impact on the markets. You know, we've been talking, or Trump has been talking about progress, and members of the administration have been talking about all the progress that's being made with these negotiations for so long that you'd have to believe that all of this has been built into the market. In fact, the market already expects a trade deal, a good trade deal. I think that is a dangerous position for the U.S. because it puts Trump in a position where he really has to deliver. Otherwise, the markets are going to be very disappointed. And so it's kind of like he's lost some of his bargaining edge, given that he's raised expectations so high for a deal. I'm surprised the market even rallies on these rumors anymore. I expect the market to sell off once we get a deal. But, you know, you might think that it would start selling off before a deal because there's so many rumors that the deal's been done.
Now, the Chinese are apparently agreeing to reduce subsidies on state-owned firms and to disclose when the central bank plans to buy or sell foreign currency. Trump has stumped on calling China a currency manipulator. Is disclosure enough, though? And how does this affect trade?
Well, first of all, to the extent that the Chinese government stops subsidizing Chinese industries, that's a win for China. I wish the U.S. government would stop subsidizing American industries. But, you know, I don't think China is manipulating its currency down any longer. I mean, it was doing that, and I think to its own detriment by artificially suppressing the yuan that propped up the dollar. And so that enabled Americans to live beyond their means, to buy more goods than we can afford. And it made it easier for us to borrow money. So I think the future for the Chinese currency is higher, and that is going to be a benefit for China. It's not going to be a benefit to the United States. So to the extent that we win concessions from China about not suppressing the value of their currency, that does not help America. That helps China.
Well, China has already agreed to step up their buying of U.S. commodities. Is that going to be enough to I guess, even out or balance out this $375 billion trade deficit?
No, not at all. I mean, I think China was going to buy more U.S. agriculture and other raw materials anyway. As the Chinese economy grows, they're going to need more of those resources. And if I'm right about what's going to happen to the dollar, if the dollar is going to fall, then obviously the Chinese are going to buy more dollar value of American products. So, but I don't know that the Chinese are in a position to guarantee some level of imports, because the Chinese government doesn't dictate to Chinese consumers or Chinese businesses the products that they need to buy. So the Chinese government can't force the Chinese to buy American products. So I don't see how they can really deliver on any kind of commitment. But to the extent that they buy our products, they were going to buy those products anyway. What's really problematic for the trading relationship is the nature of the products that we're trading, because the Chinese buy things that we grow and dig out of the ground, whereas we buy manufactured, finished consumer goods. So that is not a good trade relationship.
Fair point. And you know, Larry Kudlow, the president's director of the National Economic Council, says that all of these details still need to be hammered out at top levels in China. So do you think any of this news is anything folks can hang their hat on? Because Lighthizer is being a lot more cautious in his language.
No, look, I think it's all going to do much ado about nothing. I think we're going to get a deal because I don't think the president can afford not to have a deal. He also can't afford to put on the tariffs on American consumers. You know, moving the tariffs up from 10% to 25% would be a disaster. Look at the economic data that's coming out today. The Atlanta Fed reduced their forecast for Q1 GDP all the way down to 0.3. I mean, that's barely growing, and who knows, we already could be on the verge of a recession. recession, so I don't think the president wants to compound the problems by raising taxes on American consumers. So he's in a position where he has to have a deal no matter what. So we're going to have a deal, but I don't think it's going to be any more significant than the USMCA, which was simply a rebranding of NAFTA. Nothing was accomplished, but the president claimed it was the greatest deal ever. I think he's going to make the same boasts about this deal. Whatever the deal is, even if it accomplishes nothing, Trump is going to claim it's the greatest deal that's ever been negotiated in the history of deals.
All right, Peter Schiff with a bearish prediction on these China trade talks. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.